welfare since the day it was born. And people who are on welfare from the day of birth tend to be kind of rotten people with unrealistic expectations of life. This is true for poor people on welfare. It's true for rich people on welfare, otherwise known as trust funds. Like, they're not reality-based people. I happen to know an awful lot of them. And they're all kind of the same. And so it's recognizable. Israel's behavior is recognizable. They've never had to get along with their neighbors because the United States would just swoop in and backstop, would co-sign for whatever crazy thing they wanted to do. Oh, you want to kill the entire population of a region? Okay, we're on board with that. Normal countries don't have that luxury. And so just like if you don't like your neighbor, and it's very common for people not to like their next door neighbor, you have to figure out ways to deal with it because you can't just go shoot him. And those ways tend to make you a better person. They make you more flexible. They make you more empathetic. That's what growing is putting yourself in other people's position and thinking about, well, what does it feel like to be my neighbor? And once you start thinking that way, then that's the basis for a long-term peace. Israel's never had to do that. They consider the Arabs animals. They're subhuman. They say this all the time. I'm not guessing about this. They say it even in English. They say it. These people are animals. They're fundamentally flawed. They're not fully human, and we can't live with them anywhere near us. Well, okay, that's obviously like Nazi talk, but it's also unrealistic talk because what are you going to do about 1.9 million people in Gaza? No one wants them. You can't actually move them anywhere. You can machine gun them all, which they're not going to do, or you can just like get real about the fact that you have to live next to these people. And I think Israel, like most countries, would have already gone through that process decades ago if it weren't for American welfare. Like, they would be better people and more reasonable people if we hadn't enabled their worst human instincts for generations. So I think it'll be a really good thing for Israel to be on its own. I hope that happens very, very soon. I don't want Israel to be destroyed. But the longer this goes, I would say, the higher the risk that Israel is like literally destroyed by its neighbors, because it's the most hated country in the world for good reason. And they don't care. They ascribe all disagreement to anti-Semitism, which they think is like just totally unreasonable. Why are people anti-Semitic? Well, just because they are. And it's this ancient hatred. It's a mind virus. It's a brain disease. Okay, maybe. But people are mad about Gaza. They're mad about the crimes that you committed in Gaza, which are real crimes. And they can't accept that. And so the sooner that they're forced to accept that, apologize for it, atone for it, put some people on trial for doing it, we can move past it. Truth and reconciliation. That's what we need.
Like, I got asked once, not me specifically, but I think they were referring to that, like, we don't know why people are so obsessed with Israel. And then I thought about it for a couple of days. I'm sick of talking about Israel. I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about what's happening in China, the Russia-Ukraine war. But when you have things like this war in Iran, you have things like the what is it? The Section 226 of the 224 of the National Defense Authorization Act. When I see things like this, and I'm not even American, as an Australian, as an ally of the US, when I see things like this, I'm like, man, how hijacked is the system? How flawed is the system itself?
But how about you just back off, stop taking my money, return to me my sovereignty, and I'll stop thinking and talking about you. I've never had any interest in talking about Israel at all. And so whatever. I mean, but you've got a very complicated psychology that has built up over generations. Before I was born in 1969, 2 years after the 6-Day War. And a lot of this was already in place then. So this is long-standing. These are long-standing patterns of behavior that are diseased. They're super unhealthy. They're terrible for the United States. They're terrible for Israel. And it's going to take a while to unwind all of this. But the unwinding has begun. There's no question about it. I mean, if you had said, as someone who has worked in the media his entire life for 35 years, probably most of my friends in the media are Jewish. If you'd called me an anti-Semite 5 years ago, I can't imagine something worse, really, than to be called an anti-Semite. I mean, it just was awful. Now I've been slandered unfairly as an anti-Semite for so long. It's never been true. It's never going to be true. I will never be an anti-Semite because I just disagree with it, anti-Semitism. But now I just don't care because I don't see it as a real charge. I see it as a way to get critics of the state of Israel to be quiet, and I'm not going to be quiet. And I think a lot of people have reached that point. So if that no longer works, if you can't humiliate people into silence while you continue to commit your crimes, if you fail to convince them that criticizing murder is worse than murder, that's really the case they're making. It's worse to criticize the genocide in Gaza than it is to commit the genocide in Gaza. And they've convinced a lot of people of this over many years. But if people sort of wake up from the spell, they're like, wait, you're the murderer, not me. You're using my money to murder children. You're the criminal. So many people have realized that, including me, that you've reached the end, really, of one form of your control. So what's left? Well, you can use money and violence. That's kind of all you have left. And neither one of those things works long-term either.